The Warriors played well enough to win this game, everyone. Played good enough to win this game. Had they had Steph Curry. He's out today, and it proves to be the difference in the end. But they fought hard. Let's discuss why they lost this game in the upcoming stretch.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? We appreciate you for making Locked On Warriors a part of your day. A lot of ways you can check us out. YouTube, if you're watching us right now, thumbs up, subscribe, all the stuff that's free. We very much appreciate it. Also, take us on the go. Check us out wherever you get your audio podcast. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. It's the new gold standard, and it's here with Robinhood Gold. You can sign up at robinhood.com/gold. I'm Charlie Walter. Covered the Warriors for 95.7 The Game in the San Francisco Bay Area. Also did the same for CBS News Bay Area, which is KPIX. Saw their championship run in 21-22. Matt Kolsky, the co-host with me today. He did the same at 95.7 The Game. You can hear him from time to time on KNBR. Enough with the intro. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, and it's that the Warriors were just one player short. They were Steph Curry away from winning this game. The second unit, Jonathan Kaminga specifically, even Pajemski showed some flashes today. I thought Pat Spencer was brilliant in the minutes that he had to play in. Wiggins off to the hot start. And they were just missing one thing down the stretch, and it was old reliable to put the ball in the bucket. That was the difference in a 105-101 loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's now the third straight loss, although I'll say this, you do feel a little bit better after this loss than you do after the prior two. No doubt about it. Obviously, it's the team, but it's just the way you played after really starting off this game in what felt like a scheduled loss. The way that they were running out rotations and just the effort level. They picked it up, man. They fought hard.
When Pat Spencer came in the second quarter, I thought we were in for a long night, but credit to him and to the Warriors in general for picking it up. Yeah, look, you can't be too upset. The effort was really good. They got some good performances. They didn't have Steph Curry. Andrew Wiggins didn't shoot the ball well most of the night. Like, a lot of things working against you, and you made it a game with the team that I still think is the best in the Western Conference. So that's all good. There's still some questions, you know. The first comment in the YouTube was about Steve Kerr's rotations, and I have questions too. I don't, like you said, what was missing down the stretch was a Steph Curry. Sure, that'd be great. You knew you didn't have Steph Curry, and you ended up with an 18-point quarter, and I just feel like, you know, given who the best offensive players on the team were tonight, you left some potential money on the table there. I'd have to look once the game book reloads, but I don't think Jonathan Kaminga or Buddy Hield played enough down the stretch in the fourth quarter when you needed buckets. But look, Steve Kerr has been reluctant to go to Kaminga and to a lesser extent Hield for more than the sort of minutes they've been allotted, even when he needs points.
So I'll tell you this, Matt. I'll cut you off right there and say this about Steve Kerr and the rotations. Third quarter, Jonathan Kaminga was the best player on the floor. I mean, he was decisive. He looked like he understood the game. It was coming to him naturally. Like, all right, am I going to take this shot? Am I going to get into the lane? I mean, there was one play specifically. I even wrote it down. It was so nice where he had already hit a three the possession before Kaminga did, turns down the three, attacks, and finishes at and one. Just really knew when to make his own move or when to just keep the ball moving, and played an excellent third quarter. Now, he sat for too long in the fourth. I agree with you there. I think he checked in with like maybe 5-6 minutes to go in the quarter. I think it should have been closer to 8. He's young enough. He's got fresh enough legs. You ride him while he's hot there. slap a saddle on him, ride him to the county fair. They did not do that in this one, which is super frustrating. But when they did give him the minutes there in the fourth quarter, he made some moves to the bucket, was strong on a layup. I think missed another one. And
Yeah,
just, I mean,
think
he
he
got
missed
his
3
opportunities
layups.
down the stretch where he didn't, that's not the reason why they lost, right? Is Steve Kerr's rotations. The
No.
reason why they lost is Oklahoma City is better than the Golden State Warriors when you don't have Steph Curry.
I mean, yeah, sure, that's true. But again, like when you lose, look, I think everybody's in agreement with what you said earlier, which is leading up to the game when Steph Curry sat with, I believe they called it, what was it? Bilateral knee soreness. When they came out looking half dead in the first quarter, it looked like a schedule loss, right? You're not going to be too upset at the end of a schedule loss against a elite team that you gave a run for their money. The other way of looking at it is you were right there, so a couple of different decisions might have made the difference. And you're right. Jonathan Kaminga had some opportunities. He was 0 for 4, I believe, in the fourth quarter. And 3 of those were layups. But I would submit to you, he was still a guy getting layups, which were few and far between for many of the Warriors over the course of the night. He was still creating more, I think. And for me, I'm always looking at process more than results, within reason, because the question is always, what's your best chance the next possession?
So who would you have taken out? Let's just stop you right there and say the final 5 that were on the floor, who would you have taken out there, thrown in Kaminga? And I'll agree with you if it's the right move.
That's Kyle Anderson for a stretch did especially after. Look, they did their best.
I thought Anderson played great, man. I thought when they subbed him out, he was the hot hand with 5 minutes to go, and that's when Kerr should have just rode the rotation. And I think that sometimes he gets a little too happy with having to play guys. It's the old third grade coach rotation where you have to play a little bit of everyone. And he did better in the second half, not playing Gary Payton and, really sticking with the hot hands longer. But that's something that he does consistently. We saw it in the last game where he took out Moses Moody to start the third quarter after that big heater. Does the same today with Kaminga. I mean, you do have to get guys rest, but a couple minutes and a timeout should be good enough for a 21, 22-year-old in the NBA, you would think.
That's the thing. Moody and Kaminga and Pajemski and Lindy, rest shouldn't be a consideration right now. It just doesn't need to be. They're young guys who are hungry for playing time, and you should ride them when they're hot. And again, Kaminga wasn't perfect tonight, but he was the best offensive player they had for most of the evening, and even when he's missing in the fourth quarter, I like his odds better. And I would have liked them to bring him back earlier to try to catch some of that momentum from the third quarter, which, as you mentioned, was where he really did damage. But again, these are minor complaints on a night like tonight, because when you rest Steph Curry against Oklahoma City, you're not, frankly, as a franchise, you're not putting your all into this one. That's just what it is. And I think we're going to see strategic rest for Steph Curry over the course of the season, and that means more opportunities for other guys to do damage. And I guess I just wish that when guys did damage, it led to more trust.
I don't think trust is the right word, man. I would go with flow. I would say flow more than trust. It's more so he just takes him out at inopportune times. Because Kaminga got 28 minutes. That's not the issue. I mean, sure, you could have played him 30. The issue is when you're taking him out and when you're putting him back in after he's on an absolute heater. I mean, we've all played sports at some point. I mean, to different extents. JV basketball is a little bit different than the NBA, but one thing is always true. Ride the hot hand, man. You don't sit the hot hand on the bench unless he physically comes up to you and looks like Moses Moody did at halftime of the previous game and says, "Coach, I need a breather. I'm exhausted." Unless he says that, you just kind of go with the hot hand there. I want to talk about Buddy Hield coming up.
Moody was so gassed at that at that halftime interview.
that was as exhausted as I've ever seen anyone in my life. But that's a story for another day, man. We'll continue the conversation. I want to talk some more about Buddy Hield, a secret weapon for Golden State. When he plays well off the bench and hits 4 or 5+ threes, Golden State's a completely different team. Did he play enough minutes today? 23. I mean, who knows? This is what happens when you play what? Today it was 11 men. So an 11-man rotation. Sometimes someone's going to be buried in there and he's going to be on the bench for a little bit longer than you'd like. But hey, Warriors with a great effort. Kaminga shines. We got a little spin sanity. We'll break down the entire thing. Take a look at the box score coming up on Locked On Warriors. Tell you about a few of our sponsors. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and right now, new customers can bet $5. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can do the live play-by-play. You can view so much on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. That is guaranteed if you win your first $5 bet on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Spread today started at 2.5. When Curry was announced out, it moves up to Oklahoma City -4.5. That means the Warriors do cover. You can keep a 0.5 point Vegas. Warriors cover, but do not win in the game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Robinhood Gold. Let's tell you about our friends over at Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to get the financial favors of the 1%. It allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on your IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing does involve risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Back to the show. So the Warriors dropped their third straight game. They're now down to 12-6 on the season. I mean, you lose to the top team in the West, missing one of the best players on planet Earth in Steph Curry. It's nothing to hang your heads about. Here's how it went down in the box score. Draymond Green, 10 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists. Green hits a couple three-pointers in the game that got the fans fired up. Took 8 three-pointers in the game. When they're going to leave Draymond open, he's going to shoot them, but struggled just a little bit in that department there. Jonathan Kaminga was 8 of 21 from the floor, 3 of 10 from deep, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 19 points in the game. Again, a very good third quarter. Rest of the game didn't do a whole ton, but that third quarter gave the Warriors the energy, and he was moving it well. The reason the Warriors were in this game, don't get me wrong, is because of the play of Jonathan Kaminga. Lindy Waters had 4. Andrew Wiggins had 16 after a really good first quarter. Didn't do a ton the rest of the game, but did hit a big 3 late to make this a game in the final possessions. Brandon Bajemski, 12 points in the game. Also hit a 3-pointer. Had 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Really good to see Brandon play well in his 30 minutes. Looney had 3, Trace Jackson-Davis 2, 10 for Kyle Anderson, who played great, 17 for Buddy Hield, 2 for Gary Payton, and 6 for Pat Spencer. But let's start with Buddy Hield, who gets 23 minutes. That's why I kind of looked at this first quarter as, are the Warriors just, is this a scheduled loss? Are they just punting, experimenting with rotations here? Because Buddy Hield got 1 minute in the first quarter. And then by the time he's out there for his second minute in the second quarter, he's out there with Pat Spencer. And that's where I was wondering, all right, what's going on with this rotation? But Buddy Hield, how important is he to this team's success? Because it does feel like when he's knocking down 5 threes, you can beat anyone. When he goes a little bit cold, it really opens up the conversation for the Warriors just need another scorer in general.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the exact same thing as Kaminga to me. And I know there's a lot of baggage with the Kaminga stuff that makes it more complicated, right? Like where there's a whole argument right now in the chat about basketball IQ and, creating offense against the set defense. And I think most of the critics are like, maybe a little harsh, but not totally wrong about Jonathan Kaminga. He does struggle more against the set defense. He does need to, I don't know, like I always feel bad saying a guy doesn't have basketball IQ, but he needs to get better at knowing when and where to do what in this offense. You could say similar things about Buddy, but through 3/4 of a game tonight, which included a pretty excellent, somewhat remarkable comeback, the Warriors were at their best when they were running and gunning and attacking, right? They put out a lineup in the fourth quarter that didn't do those things. And sure, look, Kyle Anderson played well in terms of scoring efficiency in that quarter, right? He's still getting you into a sort of game that wasn't working for you. And if you're going to be in a tight back and forth, low scoring affair down the stretch with the Thunder, like Shai Gilgeous is going to beat you if you don't have Steph Curry. And that's exactly what happened. So my argument is not that Kaminga or Hield are perfect, but, and Hield is, look, Kaminga played 4.5 minutes in the fourth. He didn't come in till under 5 minutes after being the best player on the floor in the third quarter. Buddy Hield did play 7 minutes, but given the way he affects the offense when he's out there, I would argue that still wasn't enough. And when you play them both together, to the point of that commenter who said, Hield struggles as the only offensive option on the floor, and another commenter who said Kaminga struggles to create against the set defense. Well, playing those guys together was your best way to score tonight. Maybe it's different when Steph Curry is out there. And again, I don't want to end up standing next to the people who think Steve Kerr's not a great basketball coach, because he obviously is. I just find
you're standing next to him.
I know I am.
And standing next to him.
That's what I hate about this conversation. But Hield tonight was your best shooter. Kaminga was your best scorer. And you scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, and that was the difference in the game ultimately. So it's a tough look to me.
There are some people in the chat saying players are out. Only 13 minutes for Moses Moody. Good on Steve Kerr. Good to recognize that it's not his night, that he's missing 3 of his threes. He's not affecting the game really in any way. He was just an absolute zero out there tonight. That's not to say he's going to be a zero all season or has been, but good on him to know that Gary Payton, Moses Moody, Trace Jackson Davis I guess the Trace Jackson Davis one is a little more interesting there. Did he get hurt or anything? He vanished off planet Earth.
Well, he didn't play, and I thought it was a weird starting lineup, especially without Steph Curry, to go small against, yes, Chet Holmgren is out, but Isaiah Hartenstein was out there, and he ate you alive. So I didn't totally understand the starting lineup. And, you say that about Moody, and that's fair enough. He had a bad game, but, Waters and Podziemski were genuinely mediocre at best throughout the entire game, and they played a combined 54 minutes.
See, I just, Kolsky, here's where I have to interject, and there's going to be people that agree with you, there are going to be people that agree with me, and that's the beauty of debate. Brandon Podziemski outplayed Moses Moody by 5,000 times tonight. Are you kidding me? Moses Moody took up space. Podziemski actually did some things. He found open shooters. He had 8 rebounds, 2 of them offensive. I'm not a huge stat sheet guy, just read down them, but it was more than just the stat sheet. He affected the game in some way. Moses Moody did nothing. That's not to say that Moody's not better than Podziemski, whatever, but this given game.
I'm not saying Moody should have played over Podziemski tonight, but maybe Buddy Hield should have played more than Brandon Podziemski, who couldn't throw the ball into the ocean all year long. Maybe Lindy Waters 1 for 7 without all of the assists that Podziemski provided, could have played less than Buddy Hield, who was 5 for 8 from the field, all 3-pointers, and Buddy ended up fouling out. So maybe it's a maybe it's a moot point, but like, and there you can always nitpick rotations. I just think, especially over the last few years, it's been noticeable and noteworthy how much Kerr leans into certain types of players. And Lindy Waters and Brandon Pajemski and, frankly, Pat Spencer all fall into that. And I'm not, Kyle Anderson too. I'm not trying to, point at mostly white guys. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying he likes, Steve Kerr is very much willing to sacrifice juice, for lack of a better word, for solidity. He really appreciates solidity, and he gets a solidity out of Lindy Waters, who's an older player, who's been through more in his career, who, comes from the Thunder system where they're just as intense about high IQ basketball, right? Like, when I think it's reasonable, and some coaches are willing to work with 19 to 22-year-olds who don't get all that stuff. Steve Kerr has not shown a willingness to give rope to those guys, and he will favor the 24 to 27-year-old who gets it, even if he's giving up some ability. And I don't know that always serves him. That's my general point. It's a marginal thing overall. It's just that a lot of the Warriors' losses have been on the margins.
Very true. Aside from the Cavs, it's been pretty much close loss after close loss this year, but they've also, shown the ability to close out some games that they probably had no business winning. So it goes both ways. And this one was,
and you know what, too, Chuck? And it's not just Melton's a huge part of this, right? But I think what we've seen over this 3-game losing streak, more than anything, and obviously Steph's out tonight, that's a bigger deal, but more than anything is that, yes, at the start of the season and as they won a bunch of games, the Warriors were remarkably deep. Almost so deep that it felt like overkill. But I think, as it turns out, they were just deep enough, because they still probably don't have enough at the top overall that they can afford to not have 13 guys instead of 11. As ridiculous as that sounds, like, to me, those 2 blown leads are as much about just not having that same juice to bring wave after wave of guys playing at the absolute limit of their intensity. I think 1 or 2 extra guys in those games get you a win. You just have a little more left down the stretch, and not so different tonight. Yeah, obviously you win if Steph is there, but you probably win this game if you have DeAnthony Melton, right? I mean, it's just, as that depth gets chipped away, it's going to get harder and harder for this team.
Let's go to the mailbag. Jay Capina writes in, why not start Wiggins back at the 2? It's not like Waters is doing anything. I mean, we saw the lineup at the beginning of the year. It felt like they went with their 5 best players. Draymond was playing the 4, Trace at the 5, Kaminga at the 3, Wiggins at the 2, and Curry at the 1. Wiggins and Kaminga in at the same time, and rocking with your best players. And I'm not saying get rid of the 11, 12-man rotation, but stop with the 17 minutes, 13 minutes, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever it may be, and make it look a little more like the Gary Paytons with 7, the Trace Jackson Davises with 4. Figure out who your hot hands are early, ride with them off the bench, and then stick with your best players. Obviously, Curry is not going to be able to go much more than 32 for most of the games this season. But with young guys like Kaminga and Wiggins and Pajemski and whoever it may be, today was a good method of how you see playing Wiggins 35 minutes and playing Draymond Green 32 minutes, how it can keep you in these types of games. Because really the thing that Warriors got a good starting lineup, and I know they didn't play great today, but they got a good finishing 5 as well. The issues have come for the majority of this season when they just run out of firepower and they have to put in the subs, and it's, either a Buddy Hield flurry or you're just not getting enough from the bench. So we're going to continue this conversation coming up on Locked On Warriors. Also, a look ahead at the schedule. That's all I have. All right, first, let's tell you about another one of our sponsors. It's our friends over at BILT. If you have not heard of BILT, definitely want to check it out now. Favorite thing about BILT for me is there's no cost to join BILT. And as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and your everyday spending. So a PSA for whoever rents. If you haven't heard of it, thank me here, because earning points on rent is now a reality when you pay your rent through BILT. You don't even have to check out with your landlord to start earning points that you can use towards flights, hotel stays, fitness classes, even your next rent payment. So why not break it down for you? If you're a renter, start taking advantage of BILT. Definitely do so. Start earning the points. They can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines. As we mentioned, there's over 500 airlines, 700,000 hotels and properties around the world. If you redeem your BILT points, and you can do it towards. Points also redeemed. Geez, this font is like a size 6. Good God, Colsey, get me some. I'm not earning points on my rent. Question is, why not? Start earning points on your rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That is joinbilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbilt.com/LockedOnNBA to start earning points on your rent payments today. Back to the show, everyone. All right, so where do we pick up that conversation at? What did I leave you with that was most enticing there?
Well, I think a huge question now is, you're going to have Steph Curry back, right? This is still a relatively deep team. What do you believe that this team can be, knowing that DeAnthony Melton is out for the season, and also, knowing that he's out for the season? How critical does it become to make a trade, whether that's a significant trade, or it's a smaller deal where you're adding somebody at the Melton range for Melton's expiring contract?
I think it's a consensus. You need another player at this point. Like, it's a consensus that if this team wants to be a serious contender, you got to add someone. And I'm not saying it has to be Giannis, but you got to add someone. You got to tinker with this thing just a bit, because the bench scoring, when Buddy Hield's not on, man, there's not enough there. Wiggins, Curry, Green, it's a great three-headed monster. If Kaminga looks like he did today for the rest of the season in that third quarter, you got a good core there, but you just need someone else. I don't know who that player is. I don't know who you give up to get him, but you got to look around.
Well, that becomes the question, right? And obviously, look, yes, Giannis is the dream. The only way that happens, not just this year, but ever, is if Giannis says, I'm done here and I'm going to Golden State. Now send me there for whatever you can get, because somebody else will be able to beat whatever the Warriors can offer in all likelihood. That might happen. The crazier things have happened. That would basically be the equivalent of what Anthony Davis did to get to LA, right? I mean, that's how it would have to go down, because the Warriors could put together a good package, but not necessarily the best one. Maybe there's a chance of that in the offseason. It's hard to imagine, especially if the Bucks are, turning it around a bit. It's hard to imagine that happening in the middle of this year. Anything's possible. If we pass that off as more or less a pipe dream, I just think it gets very tricky. Jimmy Butler might be out there, but after
do we have to look at stars' names though, or can we just look at the right role player like a Melton, maybe to a higher extent, that you can bring in and put in there, or a young piece that is good, but he's buried away? And I mean, give me a team, and you're not dealing with Utah at this point. Maybe Philly. I mean, would Philly do business? They got anyone sitting pretty right now that you could grab?
I mean, I don't think they're interested in getting rid of young players right now, to be quite honest with you.
Amen.
I don't know. I'd have to look deeper at who that rotation guy would be. That might be a decent answer, but I can tell you right now that, if I go look for some names and we look at them in a week, they're not going to be names that excite you, and I don't know. Look, fully healthy with DeAnthony Melton, realistically, going to the finals was a super long shot already, right? If you get like a B+ version of what DeAnthony Melton was, I don't think you're really in that conversation. So I guess it becomes, do you want to try to find a way to vault into that NBA Finals? I don't know that anybody is catching the Celtics on paper, but in the
But
West,
let's say
it's
this.
pretty wide open.
Yeah, but let's counter with this, man, because the Warriors have played good, really good, against solid teams this season. OKC's the top team in the West. And look, I know that Jalen Williams leaving changed the game. Did he get his eye poked out? Is that what happened?
Hopefully not out, but he did get his eye poked.
Yeah, let's not have that.
We don't want his eye out. No. But he did get hit. Yeah, hit in the eye.
He got poked. Those hurt now.
Yeah, man.
But it changed the game. Still, Warriors were right in it till the very end of it without Steph Curry. I mean, they've proved time and time again this year that when they are fully healthy, and that includes Jonathan Kaminga, because they missed him for the last two losses. You saw his importance today. They've proved that they can play with just about anyone. So maybe they are one player away. How good that player has to be, what they add to the table, I do not know. I do want to talk about this, though, man. The Warriors' defense on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander today. They didn't have the scoring, did Golden State. That's why they lost at the end. There were just too many possessions that it seemed like it was a rock fight, right?
Yeah.
They were trying way too hard to get up good looks. So there, I mean, to kind of agree with your point, it does make sense to have Kaminga on the floor the last 30 seconds in the game because he's probably getting an easier shot in that situation than Anderson, whoever it may be. Fair enough. But the defense as a whole, 105 points they allow to Oklahoma City, who can flat out score it. They hold Shai to 13 of 28, which is actually, pretty efficient. But it was the second half, man, where Shai was struggling for a while. Regardless of who was on him, he was fighting. Legs were light, to say the least, or I guess heavy in this situation. They were tired. So the Warriors did a lot of good things today. I think you take away tons of positives. The unfortunate thing is it's another loss. It's 3 straight. You hope that it doesn't bleed into the good vibes. But, hey, you get back to it against the Phoenix Suns this weekend. And from there, it's time for Murderers Row, man. It's a gauntlet coming up that if the Warriors can survive, then we seriously got to start talking about how do we make this trade that gets the Warriors into contention. Because if you're in contention or in the top 3 of the West after January 1st, you're a good basketball team. There's no hiding that.
Yeah, and listen, Shai has been an over 50% shooter for 3 years running. So you hold him to 13 for 28. You did a nice job, and everybody was in on that tonight. Kaminga had him some. Wiggins had him some. We saw Lindy Waters on him a little bit. Like, they put in work, and they were good enough to win defensively down the stretch if they could have bought a bucket here or there. It's just tough when you're a man down at all, but when you're that man down, we know what that looks like.
You texted me with about 30 seconds left, and you said, what would be nice right now? Number 30.
Yeah.
Number 30 would really help the dynamic of this game, but you didn't have him, and you fought hard until the end. And for that, I give the team an A, man. I give the team an A because they look so bad to start, too. I mean, they looked awful. The energy wasn't there, and they were fighting hard by the end of this game with contributions from almost everyone.
Yeah, they could have really rolled over tonight. It would have been very easy, and nobody would have blamed them, particularly down 15 in the second quarter for packing it in.
Thrive City's probably popping. It's the biggest bar night of the year. Like, these guys are human too. It's like, I want to go out and have a good time,
Yeah, exactly. Steph's already drinking, which is probably tough for everybody.
Glass of wine. Was it wine?
Yeah, I hope Steph had a glass of wine at halftime. Like, if not, what is he doing? No, in all seriousness, like, we can nitpick me in the live chat, but you lost a game you probably were meant to lose, and overall the effort was pretty nice. So I don't think this is a vibe killer. I don't think the vibes are too down, but you do have to get out of this funk. You got to turn it around, and that needs to start ASAP.
Next up, the Phoenix Suns. We'll talk about the Phoenix Suns game after that one is done. Deciding whether I'm going to take the day off for Thanksgiving or not. I'm going to take the day off.
Treat yourself, Chuck.
I'm going to take the day off, chat. So I won't see you tomorrow. But have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you after the Suns game, and we'll get back to it. This is just a blip in the radar, folks. Locked On Warriors, free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. Peace.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Gobble, gobble.